Give up your big car and lower your thermostat. Forget about all that cheap oil in Canada or Alaska or Colorado. Forget about fracking and the natural gas reserves right under our feet that make the United States the world's most energy-rich country. Forget about economic growth driven by lower energy prices. Concentrate instead on European fuel prices, solar panels, and wind turbines. Because if you don't, the planet will catch fire and the children will burn, and then they'll drown. Actually, I'm not sure if it's burn then drown or drown then burn, but either way, it's bad, and it's all due to global warming. Only it's not. The global warming hysteria was driven by a 16-year data plot that showed catastrophic warming, and now we discover what many have been saying is in fact true, that for the last 16 years, a length of time equal to the original warming microtrend, the Earth has warmed by none. 0 degrees. Now, just think about that for a moment. Think about how much this hysteria has shaped our culture and our attitudes towards energy, the economy, and the future. Don't think about the billions of your money given to Solyndra and the Volt and all the rest, because if you do, you'll start to cry. Joining me now to chill as the global warming alarmists take the political heat are your Trifecta regulars Steve Green and Scott Ott. Welcome, lads. Well, boys, the Earth's temperature has been flat for almost 2 decades now. Scott, does that make you regret all of the sustainable algae cakes that you've been feeding your wife and kids all this time?
Well, I think what you get now is you get an ambidextrous hockey stick. I mean, you get that graph that you can just flip that hockey stick over if you're left-handed and use it the other way. Yeah, this is, what are they going to call it now? Global climate hiatus? I mean, they have to come up with another excuse, because it's always something. See, they start with the premise. They don't start with the science. They start with the premise that is based on the ability to garner huge research grants and eventually to be able to jack people's taxes up and to expand the size and scope of government. That's the premise upon which it's all founded. The data has to fit the premise, or else they have a serious problem. But don't worry, they'll make it work.
That's exactly right, Scott. These are people who have drawn a map, and they go outside and they look at the map, and then they check the coastline, and they don't match, and they say the coastline is wrong. Steve, it's a little odd, isn't it? The fact that the supposedly hard-headed, reality-based liberals who claim science as their religion got snookered, while we knuckle-dragging Neanderthal conservatives out in the low-sloping forehead regions applied the kind of skepticism that is presumably the one irreplaceable element of science in the first place. I knew that when they called us skeptics, we were probably on the right side of this one.
Yeah, HE double hockey sticks, right? For months now, I've been harping on how progressives just have to project all their faults onto their opponents. And here they go again. Let's compare Anwar up in Alaska to a wind farm here in Colorado. Now, the vile progressives, they say the oil companies are greedy. They kill the wildlife. They rip you off at the pump. Well, you know what? Drilling up in Anwar has such a tiny footprint. It doesn't interfere with the wildlife at all. And drilling domestically reduces prices at the pump for you and me and our viewers. And the oil companies bet their own money to do this. But that wind farm, it kills thousands of birds. It takes up a huge land mass. It jacks up the price of your energy because it's so expensive and unreliable. And then, to start with, they take your taxes to build it. Everything they accuse us of is exactly what they're doing here.
That's exactly right, buddy. You know, Scotty, in irony too rich to go unsavored, the director of the famous East Anglia University Climate Research Unit, Professor Phil Jones, says that we should ignore this flat line in warming because 16 years is not long enough to be statistically significant. This is from a man who used the same period of time to make his entire case. You're a parodyist, Scotty. Can you parody this?
Well, sometimes a satirist is merely a stenographer. And I do that a lot with these guys. All I do is simply write down what they say and post it in my satire blog, or post it as make it part of PJ Newsbreak here on PJ TV. It can go. I mean, my work has been done. They've taken care of it for me. I'm actually a little concerned that they may be forcing me out of business.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I would love to see the emails that are going forth, back and forth between Michael, what was his name? Michael Moore or
Michael Mann.
I can't remember the guy at Penn
Michael
State.
Mann.
Michael Mann, thank you. Yes, and Phil Jones. I would love to see those emails right now going, gee, golly, how do we explain this?
Well, Steve, do you think that this thing's ever going to just implode and we can have a parade? Or will global warming, like global cooling, the DDT scare, the food implosion, the population bomb, and all the others, simply go shuffling off into the night without so much as a whimper to remind us of why we wrecked our entire economy?
Well, first, I just want to correct Scott. Weasels like those are never going to put him out of business. You know what I'm reminded of, though? I grew up watching all kinds of old horror movies on Channel 11 as a kid because there wasn't any cable yet, and that was the only thing that was showing stuff that wasn't, grown-up stuff on Saturday afternoons. But it didn't matter. I loved all these horror movies, and I don't know if you know Hammer Films. It's a British movie company. They made about 11 million vampire movies starring Peter Cushing as Van Helsing and
Christopher Lee.
with Christopher Lee as Dracula.
Scared the daylights out of me.
And at the end of every movie, yeah, we'd see Christopher Lee with a stake through his heart, or he's on fire. There's blood pouring out of his eyeballs, or he's melting or something. And then at the start of the next movie, the clever writers had found a way to bring Dracula back. Progressivism is the cheesy vampire movie of American politics. The problem is, unless we fight them, they're dangerous for real.
Great analogy, man, because I saw one of those Christopher Lee vampire movies when I was a kid, and he's in a church or something, and daylight falls on him, and he turns to dust, and I didn't sleep for a week. And if these guys continue to get reelected, I'm just not going to sleep for the next 4 years. Of course, though, as global warming started to become discredited, rather than changing their minds, the alarmists simply revamped the name. Now it's climate change. Get to keep all the money that way. Then came climate interruption. I saw some brilliant wag on the internet warn us to brace ourselves for the latest catastrophe, global climate stagnation. Now, as usual, it's not global warming or ozone holes or all the rest of these hysterical neverminds that we have to worry about. The real catastrophe is the debt bomb. And this president continues to spend money on green solutions and deny us the cheap energy reserves that can grow us out of this mess. So maybe, in the end, the real threat to humanity's future is nothing more than mass hysterias and the madness of crowds. For PJTV, I'm Bill Whittle.